We have spent hours talking about the best starships here on Trek Central. Whether that be the USS Defiant, the Enterprise with the bloody A, B, C, D, E, or F? Wait, no, now we have the G. But what about the small ships? While Captain Benjamin Sisko may have had a fancy collection of runabouts on Star Trek Deep Space Nine, other captains also had their fair share of small craft. Today, we talk about shuttles. Specifically, we're talking about the Class-f Shuttlecraft, the original Star Trek shuttle, and the designs that precede it. Welcome to Trek Central! I'm your host Captain Jack, and let's get into this! So, Lieutenant Commander Adam is actually on shore leave right now, enjoying the pleasure beaches of Riser, the lucky devil. You've got me taking the helm. Before we warp into the video, if you want to keep up to date on the latest Star Trek news, lore, and more, then make sure to hit that subscribe button to never miss a video from the team here at Trek Central. You can also follow us on social media for daily updates on the Star Trek universe. Oh, and follow us on Twitch. Okay, engage. Some things are just cool. One-shotting a heavily armed mech from the other side of the map with a giant sniper weapon? That's one of them. Mech Arena is a super fun, free-to-play online shooter that you can play on mobile or desktop. One of the most popular playstyles is Sniper. It's a good way to do well in matches. For quicker progress, it's also really satisfying. Why sniping though? It's popular for a reason and personally one of my favourite ways to play. Seriously, sniping might sound tough, but if you get hold of it you can do some real damage. It's a quick way to get into the game and start racking up kills, which is a way to do well in most of the game modes. Doing well means more rewards and thus quicker progress through the game. Personally, we really enjoy the range of pilots you can choose for your mechs. One of our favourites has to be Red. Also, we love the unique range of map locations that are featured in Mech Arena. Elon Station Grey might be one of our favourite places to wage war in-game. In honour of Paramount's anniversary, a special epic space-themed event called Solar Survivor has kicked off. 3 new 5v5 maps have been revealed, along with the legendary Scorpius mech, which has this impressive onboard javelin array. Even a new chain gun and fragment gun weapons have been shown off. Coming late is also a new missile weapon called the Disruptor and Chimera, a unique looking heavy drone pilot. The game will be celebrating the 4th of July with the US community, bringing the Liberty skin for Onyx and Star Spangled skins for all mechs, a perfect time to join. It's completely free to play on PC, Android and iOS right now, and you can use my personal link or scan my QR code to get bonuses worth $30. We'll talk about one missile rack, one Prodigy crate, and one skin to help you kickstart your game. So, am I seeing you commanding mechs in-game very soon? I hope so. Be quick and find us in-game, maybe we can play some games together very soon. Use our name on screen now. See you in-game and enjoy the video. As we're in full swing with Star Trek Strange New Worlds, you may be wondering, what about the Strange New World Shuttlecraft? Well, that is not actually a Class-f shuttle. Well yes, it's very similar in design, it's a precursor to the Class-f seen in the 2260s. This new design seems to be made for the late 2250s. The Stamets-Type Shuttlecraft was possibly named after Dr. Paul Stamets, who went down with the USS Discovery, or at least one shuttle was named Stamets, hence why it's called the Stamets-Type Shuttlecraft right now. For all we know, these might be Class D or Class E shuttlecrafts, bridging the gap between the Class C seen in Star Trek Discovery and the Class F in Star Trek the original series. Of the Stamets-Type shuttles in use, we have 3 named vessels, the mentioned Stamets, the Cervantes, and the Galileo. The Cervantes was named after Miguel de Cervantes, the author of Don Quixote. This shuttle was used in a mission to Valio Beta 5, alongside the Galileo to transport crew to the downed Sombra-class starship they used as Peregrine. The Galileo was more notable as a shuttle on the USS Enterprise, going from a Stamets-type shuttle to even a Type 7 class aboard the Enterprise D a whole century later. The interior of these Stamets-type shuttle were large and could accommodate 6 to 8 crew members sitting down, but many more if they were willing to stand. They were equipped with your windows at the front to allow all the crew to see out and obviously the pilot. By the time of the Class F, these windows would be much smaller, with most of the piloting done by the instruments and not by sight. The windows would actually be covered by shutters for most of it, only opening when the sense detected something more interesting and just the void of space. The Stamets type seemed to have a basic transporter system, allowing for emergency transport and the moving of large objects, though it doesn't look like this is a transporter pad and might just be used for emergency situations. The Stamets type did have a raising door on the left front section as the main point of ingress and the egress for the craft, which made the shuttlecraft more different than the Class C before it, which only had a rear docking port. Whether the Stamets type had a docking port for docking with ships is not known. This may have just been relied on landing in shuttle bays and on planetary surfaces instead. In standard Starfleet configuration, the ship had 2 warp nacelles on the side of the craft, which were connected by pylons. It was also used as impulse engines and maneuvering thrusters as well. It is said the Class-f Shuttlecraft could keep at warp speeds to a Constitution-class starship for a short period of time, but whether this was the same for Stamets-Type Shuttlecraft is unknown. By 2259, the Stamets-Type Shuttlecraft seemed to replace the common Class-c Shuttlecraft used by the Federation. Starbase 1 saw at least a dozen of these craft flying around and docking with the Starbase and other starships on location. Though the Stamets-Type Shuttlecraft would replace the Class-c Shuttlecraft in Starfleet settings, the Class-c would continue to be utilised for more private use, as taxis and school buses for a long time. Admiral Robert April made use of one of these shuttles when he sought out Captain Christopher Pike, who was ignoring his calls. Using an unnamed Stamets-Type Shuttle, April went to Bear Creek, Montana in 2259 to inform Pike that his longtime friend and first officer, Lieutenant Commander Una Chin Riley, had gone missing. By the time of the mid-2260s, the Stamets-Type would be replaced by the Class-f Shuttles within Starfleet. Class-f Shuttles would be a common sight at star bases such as K7 and on board Constitution-class starships, which, as standard, were equipped with 4 shuttles of this class along with other shuttle classes. The Class-f Shuttlecraft aboard the Enterprise would be named after famous people of Earth, from astronomers to physicists. There would be 3 separate shuttlecraft called the Galileo, for example, with 2 simply being called the Galileo and the Galileo 2. There would also be the Da Vinci and even the Einstein. Though the Enterprise would have their shuttles named after famous humans, other installations would have different naming conventions. For example, Starbase K7 would only have a very boring shuttle NCC K7. Very original there, Starfleet, well done. Starbase 11 would have a Class-f Shuttlecraft called a Picasso, so presumably its shuttles would be named after famous painters. The coolest, however, would be the USS Intrepid shuttles. The USS Intrepid was a Constitution-class starship with a fully Vulcan crew. The only shuttle we know of the Intrepid was a Cetar, which is named after a famous Vulcan scientist. Presumably this shuttlecraft would be destroyed along with the Intrepid, when the vessel was destroyed by a giant single-celled organism in space. Hey, a typical day in Starfleet. The Class-f's hull was made of titanium metal and could be reinforced with a protective shield. The vessel was propelled by an ion engine, and it was capable of matching the speed of a Constitution-class starship at warp, though for how long is unknown. These shuttles were only used for moving personnel and did not really have any armaments. The front section could contain passengers, with at least 7 seated crew, and the aft section could contain emergency engineering components for the shuttle. For emergency maintenance, there wasn't access to these engineering components at the rear of the shuttlecraft. Similar to the Stamets-Type Shuttle, access into the shuttle was through an entrance on the port side. It's unlikely this ship had a docking port. An interesting addition to the Class-f was the rear landing foot on the shuttle. Though the Class-f Shuttlecraft went on various missions, one of its most famous was during the Doomsday Device incident, the USS Constellation, under the command of Commodore Decker, would encounter a mysterious entity referred to as a planet killer. This device could destroy entire planets and consume their resources. While the Constellation would be attacked by the planet killer and left drifting lifeless, Decker would order his crew to evacuate to one of the planets. While he made sure to stay until the last person had left the ship, the planet killer would turn his attention to the planet his crew had evacuated to and destroy it. All Decker could do aboard his lifeless ship was watch as his crew died. Upon being rescued by the USS Enterprise under the command of Captain James T. Kirk and a small battle ensuing, Decker would steal a Class-f shuttle and use it to fly right into the mouth of the planet killer. Though he would perish in a suicide run, the crew of the Enterprise would notice a drop in the planet killer's energy and come up with a plan to use the Constellation and detonate its impulse engines inside the planet killer's maw to fully disable it. This plan would work, and all because someone decided to steal a Class-f shuttlecraft and pilot into the maw of a monster. Efficient, I like it. The Class-f shuttlecraft would remain in service until around the 2270s. Some of these shuttles would still be used on Earth and were used to and from San Francisco Air Tram Station. One such shuttlecraft would be found by the rogue crew of the USS Protostar in 2383, which was originally from the USS Enterprise. It would be the second Galileo of the Enterprise, not to be confused with the Galileo 2 of the Enterprise, which was a different shuttle entirely. This shuttlecraft would somehow have made its way to the planet of 0042692, that's a mouthful, being piloted by one Ensign Garovic, and would crash the ship into a large cavern on the planet. Unfortunately, because of this crash, the shuttle would begin leaking warp plasma, which would interact with the abundant veins of dilithium in the cave, causing a toxic runoff. planet numbers I'm not going to say again would be home to a pre-warp civilization and would adopt the name of the Enterprisians, after Ensign Garvik would interact with them and essentially contaminating their culture. The Enterprisians would tell of the legend of Ensign and mimic the stories of the USS Enterprise, naming the offspring after the characters in Garvik's stories such as Sula and Hura. Yep, you know exactly who they're referencing there. The crew of the Protostar would save the planet from the incident and leave the Enterprisans to develop on their own unique path. Some models of these shuttles would be displayed on Federation starships, as well as the full shuttles being displayed at museums across the Federation. In the early 2380s, a Class-f Shuttle would be on display in a museum on Vulcan. This would be when the crew members of the USS Ritos would steal a Romulan bird of prey for a mission into Romulan space. However, not only would the Class-f Shuttle be on display at Starfleet installations and museums, or still in service in some capacity. In the turn of the 25th century, in 2401, some Stamets-Type Shuttlecrafts would be seen on use and display at Matalas Prime. One Stamets-Type shuttle would be seen at the G2005 dock near the Starfleet Recruitment Center in District 7. Another shuttle would be present directly at the Starfleet Recruitment Center in District 7 as well in 2401. This was when a red statue of Captain Rachel Garrett was being unveiled before the terror attack would destroy the facility and probably the shuttle, which utilised experimental tunneling technology appropriated from a Dayship Institute by a faction of rogue changelings. That's a mouthful, and oh boy, same about a shuttle, am I right? Okay, so what do you think of a Class-f Shuttlecraft, and what about its precursor, the Stamets-Type? Do you want to be the Class D or the Class E type? Do you enjoy its almost reimagining of the TOS aesthetics? Let us know in the comment section below. If you want to keep up to date on the latest Star Trek news, lore, and more, then make sure to hit that subscribe button to never miss a video from the team here at Trek Central. You can also follow us on social media or join our community Discord server. For now, I've been Captain Jack, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time. Live long and prosper, my friends. Goodbye.